Martin here. Um, I mean, in my world, my days, they're busy, but I ain't got nothing to complain about. You know what I mean? My life is good. It's just busy, you know. I had to run a bunch of errands today, help out with some things for some people, get my workouts done, right? Everything I'm supposed to get done in my day. My grandson came over. I watched him for a little bit, took him to a meeting. And that was it. You know, it's crazy, like, suffering from the disease of addiction is an interesting concept, right? I tell people all the time the disease just needs a body to act out in, and 9 times out of 10, almost 100% of the time, it's gonna try to use the body closest to you that gets the most effect out of you, right? Because really, what the disease wants to do is isolate and separate, right? It doesn't want you in the solution. It doesn't want you to be practicing spiritual principles. It wants you back in its grip. It doesn't necessarily need you loaded, right? And people need to understand, like, the disease doesn't need you high, right? Literature says that in stressful situations, we revert back to our sickest behaviors without even having to use drugs, right? So, like, the disease has the ability to put me in a place where I still act like I was when I was getting loaded without even getting high. And sometimes it's just with behavior or emotions or feelings, and so it's crazy to watch the way, when it gets us, the way we react, right? Because we're definitely not responding in those moments. We're reacting to the situation, and the only way sometimes to get through them is to respond to the situation. Realistically, with spiritual principles, right? Throughout the step working process, right? When we start dealing with defects and shortcomings, the way you combat them is with spiritual principles. Fire doesn't defeat fire, right? Like, you don't ever see a firefighter bring fire to a fire, because their bigger fire isn't going to put the littler fire out, right? What they bring is water. And this was an interesting thing for me to learn, because how do I put water on a situation that's fire? And, well, the program has taught me to practice spiritual principles in those moments, right? And I get it, right? Sometimes it seems hard to do. My sponsor used to say sometimes the spiritual principle, just shut the hell up, is the principle that needs to be practiced. Because it takes two to argue, right? It takes two to fight. And if you're not fighting back, then there's no fight, right? There's no argument happening. And it's just one person arguing with themselves. And so it's interesting the way, like, the disease can corner people at times and get them to do things that they know they shouldn't do, or say things they know they shouldn't say that they can't take back, right? Like, you do harm when you practice disease principles, right? There's nothing healthy in disease principles, nothing, right? And I know I always make the comment, and sometimes I make joke of it or light of it, that character defects or character assets just distorted. But that doesn't mean I get to act out in them in a distorted way and justify my behavior for whatever reason. I'm angry with you, I've hurt, trauma, whatever BS you want to call it. It doesn't give me the right to inflict damage to you because I'm not in a good place. And the coldest piece is, like, because we're so emotionally involved with our problems, right? So the literature says that we're emotionally involved with our problems, that no healing ever really happens, because some people just aren't big enough to admit they're wrong, right? And like, that's the one thing in this recovery process that I've learned to do. And it's been hard, right? Like, it's not easy to admit that I'm wrong, but I have to, for my own sanity and for the health of my own relationships, be able to tell somebody when I screwed up. Right? The literature says that our program is founded upon goodwill, right? Which is proper service, doing the right thing for the right reason. So if I'm attacking you or hurting you intentionally, because you can't say, oh, I didn't know what I was doing. No, you know you're on the attack, right? You know what you're saying, and there's no way around that, right? So like, I'm gonna say something to intentionally hurt you. Are you gonna be big enough to own it, right? And that's what I try to teach my guys. You gotta own your stuff, right? If you screw up, own that. Because at the end of the day, you're the one that's responsible for the work that goes into healing it. And you know, my sponsor taught me a long time ago, like, if I don't want to have to write somebody on my A step, then I shouldn't say something to them that I'm gonna have to deal with in the 9th step. And and I get it, right? For a lot of us, we become emotionally charged and we allow our emotions to dictate our actions. And it takes a lot of work to get to a place where you don't allow your emotions to dictate your actions, because emotions unchecked don't ever do anything good, right? They just don't. And I wish people would do work enough. I mean, you could tell me all day long, like, you work steps or you practice principles, but I'm gonna see who you really are by the way you live, right? When you're stressed out and you're hurt, how do you respond, right? Not react. How do you respond? Because that's what a principled person does. They respond. They don't react. If you're acting like a little child, don't tell me you have principles. Like, just don't. Be honest with yourself and say, I don't know how to act like a grown-up. I don't know how to conduct myself properly. If you're a kid, if you're a child, then just say it. I'm a child. I'm immature. Because to do this thing requires us to grow up, right? My sponsor says it's called growing up in public. And when do we stop making excuses and like on our behavior because we don't know how to conduct ourselves? Come on, we're better than that. Especially if you got time, you better come correct. And if you're not, I don't know. I guess I see things a little differently just because that's not me, right? I'm not emotionally involved with my problems. I don't want to hurt my wife's feelings. I don't want to hurt my kids, my grandkids. I don't want to have to say sorry, so I try not to put myself in situations where I'm going to have to. But I do think that there's a way I can speak love to you. At the end of the day, what I want to do is I just want to love people. And sometimes that means that I have to tell people the truth, even at the expense of our relationship. Because I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to tell you something so you feel okay with what you've done. I'm not. That's not me. And I know my wife has told me there's people in this world that just can't handle me, you know, and I'm okay with that. And I think people say stupid stuff a lot, and for no reason. They just hurt people. And the unfortunate fact is some people like to stay in their hurt. It's what they're victims, right? They have victim mentality rather than victor mentality, which is what we get from Jesus, right? I'm a victor. I'm not a victim. I don't stay in punishment and hurt longer than I have to. And it's literally seconds. Like, ooh, I was hurt. Let me think about that for a hot second. Okay, I'm over it. Let's go. Because the way we find healing is to let stuff go. Let it go. Let it go. It's not that big of a deal. It really isn't. And if you can't see past that, that's your problem, not mine. So don't make it my problem. It's your problem. So leave it there. Go get some help for your problem. My question becomes, when do we start getting help for our traumas, right? rather than sitting in them and staying in them and talking about, oh, it's a process. No, it's not a process. Do work and get help. Get healthy. Why would you want to defend the negative? Why defend the negative? There's no point in it unless you want other people to believe, to like be in agreement with your pain. Come on. Wake up. Grow up. You can't stay there. We're not kids. We have stuff to do every day. The job must get done. I can't feel sorry for myself because of where I'm at. The job has to continue. So I gotta go. You know what I mean? So I just want to let you guys know that God loves you. And so do I, right? And that's why I say this stuff sometimes. Because sometimes I need to hear that I can't sit in my garbage. Which I really don't. But I guess maybe I do sometimes. I don't know. Just try and make so people don't think that I'm talking about them. But at the end of the day, God loves you and so do I. I hope you have a great day and God bless you.